A histogram is a way to represent data. It is very similar to a bar chart. However, instead of just the bars representing a value for the data that we are working with, on the x-axis we have, let's just say we label it and we count by tens. Then in a histogram, the big difference is the fact that these bars represent a value from, let's say, 10 to 20, and then values from 20 to 30. So it groups numbers into ranges. So if the data was 11, 13, 15, 19, it would all go in to this first range right here. So let's take a look at some data so that we can create our own histogram. So the following data represents Super Bowl points. So the total number of points scored in the Super Bowl. I believe the data goes up to 2010. And what we're going to do is we are going to make a histogram with this data. So in a histogram, we have two axes. On the left are vertical. This is going to be where we measure frequency. And then our horizontal axis is going to represent the points, the Super Bowl points scored. So the next thing that we want to do is figure out how we want to count our intervals. Let's start with the points scored. So if we look back at our data, you can see that the lowest scored points in a Super Bowl was 21, and the highest was 77. I'm sorry, not 77, 75. So going back to our histogram, let's say that we want to start this at 20 and we count by fives up to, we at least have to, let's go up to 80. So we have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. Now, looking at our data, we can pretty much say that the frequency of the same number of points that occurred, or in that range, since we're doing a histogram, won't go above 10. So we can count by up to 10. Okay, so let's count by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Okay, so now it's time to make our bars. Now, the biggest thing that you need to know is the way that we do these ranges is we're going to start between 20 and 25. So we're going to include the left side 20, but the right side where the bar is going to end at 25, it's not going to include 25. So it's going to go from including 20 up to, but not including 25. So let's look at our data and see how many total points there were from both sides that were between 20 and 25. So I have 1, 2, 3, and it looks like that's it. So I have 3. So on my histogram, I'm going to draw a bar that goes up to 3. And again, it includes 20, but up to 25. All right, now let's look from 25 to 30. How many are there? Okay, so 25 to 30. Oh, there they are. They're right next to each other. So we have 2. So on my histogram, we're going to go create a bar to 2. Alright, now we're looking from points that include 30 up to 35. So 30 to 35, so we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then on my histogram, I'm going to have a bar that goes up to 4. Now notice the bars are touching. There's no gaps in between them. Okay, so I will help you along instead of going back and continuing to look through all the data. So we have total points scored in a Super Bowl, the number or the frequency from 35 and including 35 to 40 was 7. Then from 40 to 45, but not including 45, was 4. Then 45 to 50, but not including 50, again up at 7. And then 50 to 55 was 4. 55 to 60 was also 4. And even though they're the same height, you want to make sure you have 2 separate bars because you're representing 2 separate ranges. From 60 to 65 we have 2. From 65 to 70, and again not including 70, we have 4. And then from 70, including 70, up to 75, not including 75, there weren't any scores in that range. So the frequency is 0. So you just leave it blank. There's going to be nothing there. And we just pick back up at 75. And there was one score that was between 75, including 75, up to 80. So we represent that one right here. And again, make sure you recognize that we just leave this gap right here representing the frequency of that range of a score was 0. Okay, so this is it. This is our histogram that represents the frequency of a range of points scored for a Super Bowl. Again, both sides score added together. And it's a range, so it's not just, scoring 20 points and then 22, and those are 2 separate bars. We have a bar specifically for 20 to 25 points. And again, we include that left side of the bar, 20, but we don't include that right side because it's going to be included in the next bar. All right, so this is our histogram.